Hey, good morning, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Unlocked. I'm your host today. I'm Tracy Wilson, and you are watching episode, I think we're up to like number 18 of the Unlocked show. And today I have got a super special guest with me today. His name is Henry Kaminski, and I have been following Henry for quite some time. In fact, I've actually been following some of his stuff and implementing it myself over the last few years. So I really wanted to get Henry on the show because I think he is amazing at what he does. So he's also known as the brand doctor. And so some of the things that we're going to be talking about with Henry today is like how to position yourself as an influencer and a subject matter expert. And a lot of that comes down to the way in which you brand yourself. So I'm going to have Henry, kind of like unlock a lot of his secrets. We're going to delve into his past and kind of unlock a lot of the things that he's been doing to really get his brand and also a lot of his clients' brands out there. I think I'm getting a little bit of audio feedback, so just forgive me, guys. I might just see how we go with this audio, and if I need to do a few little minor adjustments, we will do that. So Henry also is the owner and founder of Unique Designs, which is a full-service design and branding company based in New York. So when he gets to speak, you will absolutely, I just love the New York accent. So, you got an Aussie, Kiwi Aussie and a New Yorker going to be on the show today. So you've got a bit of all sorts going on. And he works a lot with helping coaches, consultants, influencers, and brand, authors actually pull their brands together and really grow those and scale them. Like I said, it's awesome to have people like Henry on the show because he's going to be telling us about his backstory. And I really love having people on the show who have overcome lots of obstacles to get where they are today. And Henry now has a really successful online business, and has also been recognized as a Amazon best-selling author. So he's got a book out called Refuse to Give Up, and he might show us a little bit of that. He also has a very popular brand podcast called the Brand Doctors Podcast. So go check that out. And he's also a self-taught graphic designer and brand consultant. He's consulted with people like John Bon Jovi, Fabio Viviani, and he's also been, utilized by the likes of Russell Brunson. He has designed a lot of the brand that you see, particularly in the early days of what Russell Brunson was doing from ClickFunnels. And he's also just recently received a 2 Comma Club award for generating over $1 million in a single funnel. So for somebody who's done like a massive amount of stuff, I want to welcome Henry to the show today. So welcome, Henry. Thank you so much for being here.
Tracy, what an introduction. Thank you so much.
It's a mouthful, I know, but there's so much to cover.
I love it. It's so nice to see you again.
Likewise, it's been, for those of you, like I mentioned earlier, Henry and I have sort of been in similar circles, but we'd been out of touch for a little while. So awesome to sort of reconnect with him and just, continue on with his journey. Tell us a little bit about, like, Henry, where you started, because I know that you didn't start like self-taught graphic designer. Yeah. This was not where you sort of started or even anticipated going. So, take us back to your life before all of this wonderfulness.
Yeah. So when I got out of college, it was right around 9/11 and nobody was hiring. So I used my connections. My uncle had a connection at a local hospital. So I said, is there a possibility that I could perhaps, start at the bottom or start somewhere over there and work my way up into my professional career? And so I started checking insurances and basically cleaning coffee pots for eight hours a day until I got my master's degree in business management. And I finally got a position in the Children's Hospital as a assistant director for the Sudden Infant Death Syndrome Center. So for those folks that don't know what SIDS is when a baby dies under the age of 1 year old unexpectedly with no cause. So I had a very unique job there. I was responsible for fundraising for the SIDS Family Services program inside of the department, which basically created events for families in the state of New Jersey that had a baby die of SIDS. And then what I was able to do is a pretty unique position. So after I fundraise, I then take those monies and create support events for all the families. So it was really cool. I got to actually use the money that I raised myself, right? So we needed 4 events a year. I needed to create 4 events a year, and I always needed marketing materials for the events. So I landed a huge sponsor for one of my events, Z100, one of the biggest radio stations in the world out of New York, sponsored one of my events. And I was like, wow, we got to make this one the best, right? So my buddy, who was a graphic designer, helped me coordinate the location and help me with all the marketing materials. So back then I didn't even know, this is 13 years ago. I didn't even know what graphic design was. So he starts designing the flyer for me. And I'm like, what is he doing? Like, I just got bit by the creative bug. And I was like, I am going to learn this and I will make a business out of this. I could feel it. And so that's what I did. So we had the event. It was awesome. I convinced my boss to buy me the Photoshop program. And I went to town designing all the in-house invitations and marketing collateral for all my events. So then I started building up a side hustle while I was still working there. And I did that for 36 months. I was thinking back the other day, I didn't realize how long I was actually working that side hustle until finally the rope started to tighten a little bit at the hospital. And they kind of, it was 2008-9 where things were starting to really get crushed by the economic downturn. So they were doing a lot of downsizing. And they were like, Henry, in 2009, January, you're going to become somebody's secretary because the funding for your position is gone. So I'm like, whoa. So I don't know. I got a master's degree and I feel like my career is going backwards right now. But yet I got this little side hustle that's actually picking up some steam. So what do I do? And so I finally was like, you know what? This is the leap of faith. But it wasn't easy. Here's a funny story. So I went to my girlfriend, who's now my wife for 9 years. I went to my father. I went to my uncle, who got me the job at the hospital, who's a really successful business owner. And I said, here's the situation. I don't know what to do. I'm scared. I said, maybe I could come work for you, Unc, and, I could work in construction. And he's like, Henry, you don't know anything about construction. What would you do here? And so he started planting these seeds in my head. Like, I don't know if this is the right fit for you, but this is what he said to me. He gave me a little glaring hope. He said, you know what? Let me talk to a few of my brass and let's see if we can find a spot for you. I'll get back to you. 1 week goes by, 2 weeks goes by, 3 weeks goes by. Finally, I said to myself, you know what? He gave me his answer without saying anything. And that was it. That was the push I needed off the cliff. And man, it has been a whirlwind since then. We're going on our 14-year anniversary in September. And it is just an amazing ride. We did, so right out of the gate, it's so funny. So I was a one-man band back in the day. So right out of the gate, my first year, I was working 20-hour days, barely saw my wife, just cranking all by myself. And I remember at the end of the year, tax season, my bookkeeper going, Henry, you did pretty good this year. And I was like, I'm thinking maybe 50 or 60,000, right? He said, you did $248,000. And I was like, what? I couldn't believe it. So after that gave me really the chops and the confidence to push forward. After 36 months, after my first 36 months, I made my first $1 million. Then about 3 years after that, my business started to take a huge dump because, Fiverr came out. Hurricane Sandy came through my area and wiped out 2 of my biggest clients, almost a $250,000 in revenue a year gone overnight. Could not make that money back. So I had to figure out, well, how am I going to replace that? So I said, if I can't beat Fiverr, I'll join him. So I started a Fiverr gig doing business cards and brochures and stuff for $5. And that kicked my ass, Tracy. Like, that was the worst. Like, I remember the straw that broke the camel's back that day. It was a woman. I forget where she was from. She paid $5 for a business card design. And it took me 6 hours to complete that job to her liking. So do the math on that, Trey. It's about 15 cents an hour.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, this isn't sustainable. This isn't going to work. I need to figure something out. And the one thing that I realized I wasn't doing then was creating more value for my customers.
Mm-hmm.
I realized that being a designer was not cutting the mustard, and it was that position or that skill set was turning into a commodity. So I needed to level up. And that's where I got bit by the ClickFunnels bug and digital marketing and sales funnels, and started to take my skill set of design and bring it into that world. And just everything exploded from there.
What I love about your story, Henry, particularly for our listeners and viewers, is that it shows that you don't have to be somebody that comes from this industry. And I don't know how many people I've had on the show that have like started in something completely different. You know, you in a hospital, Chris Bonetti as a miner, me as in the finance and banking. And then all of a sudden we find ourselves in this entrepreneurial world. So it just goes to show that it can be done, and it is absolutely possible. So it shows that others that they can do this too. Mm-hmm. Secondly, it shows that there is some, you have some level of tenacity and determination to go, you know what, I've got the bug for this. Like once you get that fire lit and you've got a little bit of, we call it the bug, or where the fire's lit in your belly. It's like, that's what I want to do. You just don't give up. You have to keep moving forward and doing what it takes to make that happen. The next part that I really love is like right now, that story that you've just told, we are in the middle, and who knows, don't know if we're in the middle. We could be still at the beginning of this pandemic and the situation that we are in. But what you've just told about 9/11 and, the economic downturn, a lot of that is very relevant to what we are going through right now. Mm-hmm. And the good thing is that there is light at the end of the tunnel. You came through all of that, and therefore we will get through all of this that we are going through right now. So there's opportunity for people in this moment to go, hey, what do I want to do? How can I kind of take, my skill and my knowledge and my and the mindset that I have, and maybe create something else, which leads perfectly into, this whole world of branding. So let's talk a little bit about, obviously that. And I know that in the beginning, you weren't the brand doctor. No. You were something completely different. In fact, you probably started out with, unique designs. And then over time that has morphed into, a personal brand for you. So let's talk about that and how important it is for us to create our own and make the distinction between the brand and then also our personal brand, and why that's so super important.
Yeah. So let's get the definition of branding, personal branding out of the way real quick so people can get a better understanding of what that is. I sometimes take for granted that not everybody is a brand and eats, sleeps, and drinks brand like I do, right? So the best definition of branding that I learned from was Marty Neumeier, and he said branding is the gut feeling people get when they interact with you or your business. Bottom line. And I take it a step further and basically say it's like when you walk out of the room, what are they talking? What are they saying about you? Like that's really the brand. That's branding in a nutshell, right? Personal branding, I found a great definition. I forget the author, so forgive me. His definition really hit me upside the head, and I was like, "Ooh, I'm running with this one because this is really good." The way he defined personal branding was the crossroad between how you perceive yourself and how others actually perceive you. So when the gap is wide between those two, there's a lot of struggle. When the gap is small, that person is doing really, really well with their personal brand. A lot of times we think, like we look in the mirror and we may be overweight, but we see Brad Pitt. Mm-hmm. And that's a lot of entrepreneurs these days, especially that want to break out into a personal brand. They'll go get their whole brand done on Fiverr or Upwork or 99 Designs and think it's the best thing since sliced bread because, they put all this effort into it. And then somebody like me comes along and says, you look like a Mickey Mouse brand. Like, I don't know how you get off charging this kind of money. I would never pay that money. Just look at your identity. It doesn't fit. It doesn't match the true quality and value that you deliver, right? And I don't say that as condescending. I don't say that as I'm pointing the finger, I'm better than you. I'm not saying it that way. I'm saying it is if you want to be branded properly, it's probably a good idea. And you want to do this seriously, like honestly, you should hire a professional to help you do it. I'm not saying hire me. I'm saying anybody. But people will know right away in a split second whether or not you did it yourself or you had professional help. So I always say that if you want to take it to the next level, if you want to level up, like you gotta get that next level help, right? So that's what I did immediately. And listen, I made all the wrong decisions myself. I spent $26,000 on a rebrand that didn't make me a dollar. Mm-hmm. It didn't make me a dollar. And then I met Russell Brunson and he was like, dude, this is all ass backwards. It's missing something that is crucial for you. And he said, you got this fancy brand. It's beautiful. But you're just as fancy as the next design company. So where the hell's the differentiation? He said, Henry, you got this huge personality and you love people and you just want to help. Where is that in your branding? It's nowhere to be found. There's just pretty design work here, right?
What's really fascinating about this, Henry, because I think about this a lot, and often people don't always take their online presence as seriously as they would if they were opening up a store in a high street. So if we were opening your store in a high street, what would you do? You wouldn't go in there and do the fit out yourself. You wouldn't try and slap some paint on the wall and hope for the best. You go and you hire the best people to present you in the best way possible to the public that are going to be walking in your door. And so therefore we need to apply that same level of thinking to our online presence. It's the same thing. People are walking in our door and what they see and what they feel from us, it becomes the brand in which we have created. Yeah. That ends up being, I find that those brands come to life themselves. You know, it's like there's a brand Tracy Wilson, there's a brand My Business Beyond 5 Business, and then there's the show which takes on its whole, it's a whole different feel to it. It has me in it, it has my business in it, but it also has a brand and a uniqueness of its own.
Yeah, for sure. And that's the key there. I think a lot of people forget what the X factor is, what makes you radically different from everybody else. And it's you. It's not because I use purple as a color scheme for my business. It's really not. I mean, that's part of it, but it's you. There's not another Henry Kaminski on this planet like me. There may be another person named Henry Kaminski. Apparently, there's quite a bit of Henry Kaminskis in this world. But what I'm saying is nobody's me. Nobody has the same backstory. Nobody has the same accent. Nobody has the same passion. They don't. We all are unique beings, and that's what makes us special. So what I say is you got to lean into that. You got to leverage that. You got to make that the key to your success. And that's what I've been successfully able to do over the past 13 years. Listen, it wasn't easy. There was a lot of times I got kicked in the mouth. I got trolled. I had to refund $40,000 in one day, which put me in $40,000 in debt in one day, and had to bail out of that. Right? It was bad. Right? And then I finally, you wake up, you mature, you figure out where your soft and weaknesses are, and you fill that. I didn't try to get better at project managing. I hired a project manager, right? And that was one of the things that I was taught from my mentors was if I tried to be the best project manager, the best accountant, the best bookkeeper, the best designer, I would be 5% good at all of that. Mm-hmm. Where now I just focus on strategy. So where you're going to see me behind closed doors is working with clients and studying strategy, right? And I'm talking people from Madison Avenue. I made some really awesome connections with some really cool people that have been branding for Land Rover, Toyota, Prius, Mini, all Nike, that they've all worked on these big branding projects. And I'm like, wow, this is the best education I could get, is just being friends with you guys and learning from you guys. So that's what I'm doing. I'm just sharpening my brand strategy tools. And now I have a team of 8 people that could do all the other stuff that I used to be good at, but now I handed the torch over to them, and now they can execute that stuff. I stay in my lane, they stay in theirs, we grow together.
So important. And that is a lesson that I've, also learned, wearing so many different hats and trying to do it all yourself. And then you go, okay, let's go find the people who actually know the how. When you do that, your pathway to success, is collapsed. You're able to get there a heck of a lot quicker when you employ the right people using the right tools at the right time to get you to where you want to be. So I couldn't agree with you more. And this is interesting because I've got a few clients at the moment that I actually, through this conversation, I think we're going to help a lot, because they are building their online brand. So they might have a telecommunications business or, some other type of business, and they want it to look all beautiful, and they don't want to be in it. Like, it's like, no, I want to be sort of behind the scenes. That's like, well, for you to stand out from everybody else, because there are hundreds of thousands of, let's use this as an example, telecommunications companies. But exactly like you said, there's nobody else like him. Yeah. And if he was able to get out there and just share why he's doing what he's doing and why it's so important, that thing in itself is, that's that heart connection that you get when you are dealing with with another business owner. And that's what we want. Particularly, I think it's super important in this time where we're not getting that same level of connection that we used to get pre-COVID.
Right.
You've got to create that elsewhere, right?
Right. So I say this a lot in interviews. Pre-COVID, being online with your business was a nice to have. Mm-hmm. During, and we're kind of post-COVID, I guess, but we're still kind of in the midst of this. It is a necessity to have your business online, to be able to go virtual with your team, right? With how you serve your clients. It is a must have. It's no longer a nice to have. So my question to your client is, how am I going to know you're the obvious choice over somebody else? So I'll give you a quick example. I did some remodeling to my brand recently. And one of the things that I learned just by asking my clients in the past, like, why did you choose me? Right? Because I'm not cheap. And they said, you have a vulnerability to you that no one else has, or at least that I found. You put your work out there on your website, on your social channels, and you do like behind the scenes stuff where you're actually working with a client. Now I make sure that nothing's proprietary and they're everything is safe. And I only usually do this in like 60-second snips. So you can't really get an idea. You can only get a little taste of what I'm working on with them. But I put that out there constantly. And so you get that sent out to you repetitiously over and over and over again. You're finally going to say to yourself, why am I not working with this guy yet? And so I lead with social proof. I lead with case study. If you go to my site right now, you'll laugh. We just updated it and we have client references as a navigation tab. You click on that and it's 6 or 7 logos. You click on the logo and it gives you my clients' contact information to call them if you want, to get a better understanding of what it's like to work with me. Like I'm really getting to the point now where it's like, I'm trying to make it really easy for you to make a decision, right?
And it's bringing that whole transparency forward, right? It's like, here we go. You want to check me out? Go talk to these people. Here I am. I mean, there's some great things that we can do, like just in this small amount of time that we've been chatting right now, for people to implement in their businesses, right now, is some of this stuff. The other thing that I've obviously heard, and this really goes back to why it's important for us to create our own personal brand. I mean, I've seen people who have had businesses that they've created, and they've created them under a business name, and they never ever created their own brand. And what happened to that is, as soon as that business, something happens with that business, poof, they've disappeared off the face of the earth. I mean, there is a huge, let's talk about that. There's a huge amount of merit in building your own brand for reasons other than just having a presence, having an initial presence online. It gives you longevity and the ability to be able to pivot any way you like.
Yeah. That's the beauty about building a personal brand, right? So I have a client who built this personal brand and we helped him develop all of that. And he had a software company. He since sold that software company, and now he's doing this executive coaching stuff, right? Showing people how to exit and sell businesses, right? He built up such a large following with his personal brand. He can go start multiple McDonald's franchises, and his following is just going to follow him to the next venture over and over and over and over again. That's the power of really investing in your personal brand. And I'm a huge believer that people will buy you first before they buy your product or service. Listen, when I was starting my design firm, my designs were so bad, Tracy. Like I always pull them up on occasion to remember where I started. Like, I don't know how anybody paid me for that work. It was so horrendous. But they didn't buy the work. They bought my speed. They bought my personality. They bought me because they liked me. They trusted me. They knew they could rely on me. If they gave me something last minute, that I'd get it done. Like, they bought me. And that transpired into really growing this personal brand and then just wrapping the business sort of around it. I love what I do so much. I don't see myself selling this business or exiting this business anytime soon. And I'm not worried about, because that's a big question, right? Do I brand the brand, or do I brand the business, or do I brand me? I always say, listen, you should still focus on both, because that's what's really going to be powerful. But there are some key there are some key points here, and I'm going to put an Instagram post out tomorrow about this. If you are really building this business up to sell it, then maybe all the focus shouldn't be on the personal brand. Okay. There's some exceptions like Paul Newman and Mrs. Fields and some of those different brands like that. Right. But at the end of the day, people are going to buy you before they buy your product or service or business. And so really focus on being a good human being and putting yourself out there and showing people your wins, but showing people your losses too. People want to learn from your mistakes. And I always say, you'll hear me in videos, you'll hear me in emails. I'm writing this to you because I made this mistake a year, 2, 3, 5, 7 years ago, and I don't want you to make the same one, right? So I always throw myself under the bus because I want to use me as an example. And that seems to really help my clients fast track their way to where they want to be.
So I think there's a couple of really good points here. And that is, if you're building a brand, you want to build both. You want to build your business brand and your personal brand. And you're doing that simultaneously. The second is, get yourself some professional help, such as Henry and his team. And he does some beautiful designs. Go and check out some of the stuff that he's doing. So the other thing that we wanted to talk about was when you're doing that, is how do you position yourself as an influencer instead of waiting for somebody else to kind of go, tap, 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 Tracy, how about you be on my show? Or how about you come and do this? How do you do that?
Yeah, it's through action, Trace. I wish I had an easy button here where you could just push this and automatically become an influencer. I probably spent $25,000 last year on Instagram in paid shout outs to get my 155,000 followers. Okay. People don't want to know that. People don't want to hear, oh my God, you paid $25,000 to get 155,000 followers. Yeah. Why? Because do you know how much business that got me last year? We did close to $1 million in revenue What's like 25,000 is a drop in a bucket compared to that, right?
It's like an awesome ROI, right?
It's a huge ROI, right? It got me exposed to so many different people, and I borrowed people's audiences. That's what paid shout outs are. So I don't want to talk over anybody's head. So let's just explain what a paid shout out is. So there's other big Instagram accounts out there, like 10 times bigger than mine, right? That have a huge entrepreneurial following. They're either business owners or coaches, consultants, whatever, right? And they already built this massive audience up. So I'll go to this account and I'll say, listen, I'll pay you $100 to $300. Can you post one of my posts from my page on yours and tell everybody to come follow me? And they sure. So we that's the exchange, right? And then what will happen is if it's a good post and it resonates with their audience, you'll get a massive influx of following. I mean, I've gotten with one paid shout out, I've gotten close to 2,000 followers in a day, right? So I do that and I rinse and repeat that every week, 4 or 5 times a week, right? So the budget's there. So we'll talk about budget in a second, but there's I don't know what, actually I do. I could pull up my QuickBooks right now, but I invest 25 to 35% of my annual revenues back into my business every year. So do the math. That's like $200,000-$300,000, right? So it's a lot of, but people are like, what? That's what it takes to get to $1 million? Well, let me ask you a question.
Would you pay, right?
Yeah. Would you pay $300,000 to make $1 million?
You bet.
That's like a no-brainer, right? So when you start to play that, like when you start to show them that perspective, they're like, oh, I get it now. So I've always been a huge proponent of paying to play. You want to get to where you want to be faster? Pay to play.
Mm-hmm. I remember, and we're not going back like that far, maybe 3 years or so.
Yeah,
when you remember you first started your Instagram account, and I think I may have been one of your first followers, like way back when. And now, and that's through you being like consistent, having a strategy, and just being, doing it religiously week after week after week. That's what it takes to get to the point where you've got, like, that's like turning on a tap. You can turn that tap on and off whenever you want to now. You have control over that. So, but it takes us to start, right?
Yeah. So let's dive into this more, because that's just one piece of positioning yourself as an influencer, right? There is a great book out there. It's called They Ask You Answer. It's by Marcus Sheridan, and it's a phenomenal book. So if you really want to position yourself as an influencer or subject matter expert online, you should be posting 2 things, and 2 things only. One post about handling objections that you get when people don't want to move forward with you. And 2, answering every single question about your expertise. If you just rinse and repeat those 2 over and over and over again online, within 6 months, if you do it consistently every day, 3 times a day, if you really want to accelerate, I could promise you in a year, you can have a multiple 6-figure business, especially if you're serving an audience that is underserved and really sees the value and your service is in demand, right? So you do that as a content strategy, you will never be at a loss for content, because you're always going to get an objection and you're always going to have a question that needs an answer. So if you look at my content strategy on Instagram right now, the past 20 posts, they're all answers to questions. Mm-hmm. And that is the quickest way to really build up your influence and subject matter expertise. And now the next step is going to be, well, how do you funnel them into your world where you can nurture the relationship and eventually get them to where where you want them to be paying you for your services or products, right? So that's where the funnel comes in. And that's where you have to get clever with how do you get people in the top of the funnel and then nurture them down qualify them down into a paying customer, which is down at the bottom. So that's simply what a sales funnel is. We've been going through them since the beginning of time, right? It's just people want to cloud it up and complicate things. It's really, really simple. And if you can narrow down, this is where I tell all my clients, if you can narrow down your service deliverable to one or two things that serves a very specific audience, you're gold. You're gold. I think the biggest mistake people make in the beginning is they try to be everything to everybody and they wind up being nothing to no one, right? And that's kind of cliche, but it's so true, right? So I used to play around with these low ticket items like $20 ebooks and $300 things, and right, and I would take it would take energy to sell those things, right? And they would move the needle like this. And then I just focus on my brand accelerator program, which is a $36,000 program. It's a 90-day sprint, and you have a complete done for you brand identity with sales funnel, website, logo, brand identity, everything, right? And that moves the needle like this. So what am I doing putzing around trying to sell a $300 tchotchke when I should be really selling people into this program, because this program is not only going to move the needle for me, but it's really going to move the needle for them. You know, we have clients now. I have a client in the UK, and he said, Jesus, Mary, I wish you were in my life 2 years ago when I started this business. Like, we've gotten to this level by pure luck. And he's getting some decent downloads on his podcast, and he's generated about $250,000 already, which isn't bad for year one, right? So he's green. But he said, we have nothing packaged properly. Why? Because we don't know who the hell we're selling to. And that's a big problem.
I want to ask you this question. So this is something that, particularly in this COVID situation, I've heard a lot of people talking about. Is like, people can't afford the high ticket anymore. So let's put out a whole lot of these smaller, tiny offers and see how we go with that. I want to know what is your opinion on that? Because mine takes the same amount of time and effort to sell a $36,000 something as it does to sell a $36 something. So what's your opinion on that?
Trey, I almost fell for that BS. I almost fell for it. I actually built out a little mini funnel. It was called the Funnel Sprint. It was $7,500. It was the biggest waste of time. I'm so happy that I only spent a couple $100s to get that funnel going versus the couple thousand that I typically spend on putting out a new offer. I put it out 1 week later. I was like, what am I doing? This is a Band-Aid to my clients' pains. They need surgery. This is not this $7,500 is going to only put a Band-Aid on their hurt. Stop this. Here's what you need to do. You need to articulate the value behind the brand accelerator program more and find the right people, because there's people out there that need you, right? And that are willing and able to spend that. Trey, it's 6/20. It's June 23. We did $92,400 and something in revenue this month. In the midst of all of this COVID, last month we were positive 14 or 15,000. The month before that we were positive 22,000. How am I profitable during a global pandemic? It was being able to articulate the value behind building your personal brand and getting your business online stat. Because if you don't do this now, your competition will, and you will be lost in the wind. So I don't say these numbers to brag. I don't like showing numbers or anything like that. I'm not a huge fan of that. I don't think that's why people buy me. But I just have to make a point. That is nonsense. It is nonsense. It's an excuse. It's you're not doing a good job articulating the value, and you're trying to compete on price. And that is the quickest way to the bottom.
Oh, absolutely.
Right?
I wanted to have this conversation today because that is what I'm seeing everywhere. And like you said, hey, I started to go down that path. There are a lot of people that have gone down that path and they don't know how to get their way back now. Like, lucky for you, you went, crap, this is not right. This is not what I should be doing. I should be articulating the value in what I'm doing better. Henry, get your backside into gear and do a better job over here.
Yeah.
And that enabled you to get back into alignment with what you're supposed to do. There are a lot of people that are not as experienced as you, and therefore are taking that, let's call it the guru advice, to go down the tiny, down that tiny path for tiny profits, for lots and lots of work that goes with. So I just wanted to make sure that we had that conversation today. And the way that you do it obviously comes down to, not on, in our expert positioning and our branding, it's not just the way in which we look. It's the way in which we articulate ourselves. Right. It's the way in which we deliver the value. It's the way in which we show people what they will get when they work with us. What is the result that they will get? All of those things, and answering the questions. I love those two things, objective and expertise. So if we just focus on those two things and we continue to do that, like you're saying, in a year's time, man, the landscape will change significantly.
Oh, for sure. We have a new brand accelerator client right now who came on board last week. He wanted to pay in full. He said, listen, I want to get this done. Let's go. Right. And so he did. We jumped on a couple work sessions already. We're in work session 3 today. And I asked him, I said, why did you invest $36K into this? You've been doing this for 18 years. You have a pretty decent, the guy does a pretty decent business as a coach. He said, I'm done selling $2,000 and $3,000 offers. Like, I want to sell $20,000 and $30,000 offers. I know I'm worth it. I have the proven result. But my confidence isn't there because look at my funnels, look at my branding online. I know where he got his icon for his logo on Shutterstock. I see his ClickFunnels, and they're all templated pages from like ClickFunnels Basics 101, right? I'm like, this isn't going to make me excited to give you 30 grand. It's going to make me scratch my head and say, is this guy legit? That's a big problem. And that's when he was like, you could see the fury in his eyes. And he was like, when can we start? And I was like, you tell me. Right. So that's it. I mean, I hate to say, I'm from Jersey, so I'm going to give it to you straight. Right. But I'll tell it to you in a story because I'm not making this up. I mean, this is how people think. I thought the same thing when I got turned down by a big food distribution company. That's what made me spend 26 grand on a rebrand. It was $100,000 gig. It was between me and a couple other firms. They went with another firm, paid more. And when I found out why they went with that other firm, they looked more professional. I was devastated, Trey.
What would you, and I, that those moments are when you go, oh crap, I've got to do something about this. Those are like those pivotal moments. And that's exactly what your client is like. I'm over this. I'm done with, charging little for what I do because I know that I'm worth more. And so the key here, this was one of the things, how to get paid what you are worth and position yourself as an authority. That's how you get paid more, is looking the part, talking the part, being the part.
And
it's
executing.
Not just looking like it; it's actually being that.
That's
fronting
it.
Up and being it.
That's it. You have to deliver on your promise. It was Father's Day a couple days ago, and I posted a picture on Instagram about my dad, and I said, "There's 3 things that I really learned." My dad was a shop steward from UPS. He was a mechanic. He fixed the trucks for 33 years, and he raised me all by himself. He worked 4 jobs. He would do oil changes on the side. I was cutting lawns at 13 with him. And there's 3 things that he taught me. One was never give up. 2, deliver on your promise. Right? And 3, do what you love to do. This guy could fix anything and it'll never break again. Right? And he always did what he loved to do. And I was like, I am so blessed to make a 7-figure income out of my home office. I could see my 3-year-old take his first steps and say his first words and, jump in here during a live stream. He's sleeping now because it's late here, but that's a typical day for me. And I love it. Not a lot of people could do that. And my dad said, you got to put in the work. You got to work hard. Otherwise you don't get those things. Right. Mm-hmm. And so I have expensive taste. My wife always kids me and makes fun of me because she's like the modest one. And those are that's a little bit of a driver for me. Right. So I have my vision board and I have certain things on it that I want to accomplish and experience. And I always tell myself, I'm like, you're never going to get that if you don't do good work for people. Right. You just don't get those things easily. Like those things don't come easily. And if they do, you better watch out. You better watch that bolt of lightning because it's coming. Mm-hmm. Right. Mm-hmm. If it feels too easy, it probably is. Mm-hmm.
The wrecking ball's coming back to get you.
Right. So whatever drives you, whatever it is, it's not just material things. I don't want to get your audience twisted, but there's a thing that I always I always say on interviews because I want to put this energy out there for other people. I just became a parent 3 years ago, 2.5 years ago. And I was very ambitious and motivated prior to Dante coming into our lives. And just something hit me recently as he starts to talk more. And he's just like, he's such a little person now, right? I said, he's going to come of age where he's going to be able to Google my name. He's going to read things. He's going to watch things. He's going to listen to things of mine. And I am working my ass off right now to just make him proud. And so I want you guys to find whatever that is. It could be your children. It could be material things. It's okay. Whatever drives you to do amazing work for people, right? Do that and watch what happens.
Absolutely. And, this show, Henry, is not just about business, but it is about business, family, and life in general. Because, in the world that we live in, when we're working from home, you've got the kids there. He will wake up and, hey, Dad, come and play with me when you're on a live. That's just the way life is. And being able to embrace that and have that as part of what you do and what you show to the world I think is fantastic. But not only is he going to be looking at that, like I'm a big believer of our information is going to be online, and not only our children are going to watch that, our grandchildren and their children and their children. This stuff that we are creating will be available for, who knows how long, centuries. Yeah. So we want to make sure that we do front up and we do good stuff so that our legacy is one to be remembered.
Right. Which you teed me up. What do you want to be remembered for? When you're 80 or 90 years old, what do you want to be remembered as? Dean Graziosi was on my show not too long ago, and I was explaining to him, like, there's a lot of dads out there. Once they have children, they stop taking risks. I was one of them. I put the first year of Dante's life, I wasn't making too many big purchases in the business. Personally, I was just like, we got to chill. Right. And he said, is that how you want your son to remember you? As somebody who just plays it safe all the time? Now Dean knows how to get under my skin. Mm-hmm. And so I'm like, no. Right. And so he's like, well, then what are you doing? Mm. And that just lit me. up. That lit me up. I got off that interview. I was like ready to take on the world. And he just switched. He like switched my paradigm in one sentence.
And I mean, that's the thing too, right? That was always inside of you, but it took somebody else to just do something that unlocked that was like, whoa, there it is. And off you go.
That's why I love your show, because you unlock people's potential. You unlock people's thinking. You know, there's so many of us that think that this is the cards that we were dealt, and this is the way I live. Tracy, if I showed you the house that I grew up in as a teenager, there would probably be tears coming out of your eyes. It makes me emotional when I drive past it every year. I take a ride down to where I grew up, and I pass the house. You could blow on it and it'll fall down. I don't even know how it's still standing. I drive past it at least once a year to remind myself of where I came from. Right? A lot of my high school friends dead in jail, working menial jobs, because they think that that's what was written for them. And I'm like, I call bullshit to that all day long. Mm-hmm. So you can design your own life. And if you were to ask me, Trey, like, well, why do you do what you do? I will tell you this. I've been blessed, gifted with the talent of design, communication, the love of people. And I want to help people design their lives like I designed mine. Not exactly the same, how they want to design it, because we're all artists of our lives. And we have the brush in our hand. You could choose to lay it on the table and just stare at it, or you could pick it up and start painting. Mm-hmm. And so I'm turning 40 this year. I'm not living my life, my second half of my life, the same way I lived my first half. So pick up that brush and start painting. What are you waiting for?
Here to that. You know, Henry's giving you a paintbrush. I'm going to give you some keys. And it's just a matter of, you know, what are you going to pick up? Just go for it. Don't hold back. Life does not have to, what you've had in the past doesn't have to be in the future. Whatever you want is possible. And the way that you do that is you connect with the right kind of people. You get yourself around, you fill your mind and your head with the right kind of information. You switch that damn TV off. You stop listening to nonsense that's on that. That was kind of step number one I did. Don't listen to it. Don't watch TV. And I fill my mind with the things that are going to help me move forward with where I want to go. Mm-hmm. And I know that that recipe is the right recipe to like unlock anything you want. And obviously moving forward with positivity. So not with your head in the clouds. You still need to be, you know, grounded and you know, discerning with your mind and your information. But you absolutely can do that. Henry, I have thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. I'm so glad that we reconnected, and we totally need to have you back on at some time and talk more about this stuff, because we could go for hours, because it's just things that we are just passionate about. I want to leave today with the viewers wanting to, you know, knowing where to go and hang out with you. So I'm going to put on here, you can go and hang out with Henry on Instagram, of course, and be one of the, one of his followers there at The Brand Doctor. So go and check out Henry there. Where else can they find you, Henry? Because I'm sure that there's going to be people that are going to want to check you out.
Yeah, so my podcast is getting 81,000 downloads a month. So if you want to go check out me personally, you know, and a little bit more intimately, go to the Brand Doctor podcast at Spotify, at iTunes, iHeart Radio. I think we're on all the platforms. But if you just type in the Brand Doctor podcast, I'll come right up. There's over 300 something episodes already. Go check me out there. We have some amazing guests like Dean Graziosi and Fabio Viviani and some big names on the show. Go check it out. I hope it serves you. I hope it helps you. And I hope it drives you to be the person that you want to be and helps you build a brand that you're proud to promote.
Well, thank you so much. Look, I appreciate your time. I know you're super busy and it's late over there in New Jersey. So I want to say, bring a close to today's Unlock session. I want to thank everybody for watching. It is always my pleasure to have you guys on the show with me. I'll be back again Friday. So Friday, Australia time, Thursday for those of you that are in the US, always 10 a.m. in the morning. We'll be sharing more stuff on how to unlock your life, your business, and also helping you to really thrive in your family too. So that's what we do here on the Unlock Show, and I hope to be back with you guys again real soon. And if you aren't already a member, because some of you may be watching on various different places, because we're always streaming to about 5 different places live all at the same time. So if you are not inside the Success Secrets for Business, Family, and Life on Facebook, then I highly recommend you get in over there, because that's where I share a whole lot more information and a lot of freebies and downloads. Not only I am in there, but there are a lot of other very special and talented business people that are also sharing their secrets to help you live and thrive really well in both business, family, and your life. So thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you guys again on Friday. See you soon. Bye.